There's a lie that's running rampant in our culture, and it's a lie that people don't change or they can't change. I've seen generational trauma ended and not passed down. So this episode is the case against that lie that's permeated in our society. See, their identity wants to protect itself. The brain treats who I've always been as a safety net, even when who you've always been is killing you. Either you're the addict or you're not. Either you're built for fitness or you're not. There's no room for becoming, no room for transformation. But I want you to have this crystal clear. You can change. The brain can rewire at any age. The old assumption was that your brain locks after childhood or at a certain age. That's been overturned. Adult brains reorganize in response to learning, stress, injury, repetition. Science has just caught up to what Scripture and Spartans already knew. You are not sentenced to what you inherited. You can transform, and when you do that, when you come back greater than any setback that you faced, you become the proof that someone else needs that change can happen. You become the example. Change isn't reserved for the select few. It's available for us all. But are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to die or kill off your old self to become that new version of you?
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and this is your podcast for leadership, inspiration, and impact. Today will be no different, but it's just me. Mano a mano in your ears today. And I got another great topic. You know, it was interesting, a couple episodes ago, or maybe a few now, the Two Truths episode I did solo received a ton of great praise. And I want to build upon that. But before we do, I got an exciting announcement. This guy right here, the Kairos Code, the book that we released late last year, is coming to Audible, coming to audiobook. It took us quite a bit of time to put it together, months of work. I'm reading it in my own voice because there's too many personal stories told for me to hand that off to a professional. So we recorded it all, every single word, and it's now edited and ready to come to life. I have an ask for you. It comes to life August 1st. That is the drop date. And we're looking for 250 people to be part of this launch team. So if you go to theKairosCode.com/250, I would be greatly appreciative. Help spread the word. Help us hit the bestseller list like we did with this hard copy. And yeah, let's get that word out there. It's received high praises from all around the world. And I think that for the new audience, the Audible audience, the ones that only read books via audio, we got to spread that word some more. So go to theKairosCode.com/250. All right, now into the meat and potatoes, the topic. There's a lie that's running rampant in our culture. And it's a lie that people don't change or they can't change. And maybe some of you believe this. Maybe at one point in my life, I believed this. It's one of those platitudes that we toss out there. It's said at dinner tables, certainly said in therapy offices, said by people justifying why they stopped trying. It's not an observation, really. I mean, it is to me. But I think it's more a permission to quit for those that actually don't want to change, or a permission to abscond actions for others. Like they're just not going to change. I don't believe it. I've lived and have seen the counter evidence to it. You know, I've had periods of my life where I've changed my fitness. I've had periods of my life where I've had to change because I had a hard career pivot. I've seen my father-in-law be the gentle, kind person that he was, never raising his voice, and then to be corrected by my mother-in-law and my wife to say, no, he wasn't always that way. He used to get quite angry. But he went to counseling to seek to change. I've seen friends give up their addiction, hard drugs, porn addictions, also gambling, you name it. I've seen them change where others would have said, they're not going to change. I've literally seen it. I've seen bodies transformed, not only my own, but people that were morbidly obese that are now in some of the greatest shape of their lives. I've seen generational trauma ended and not passed down. So this episode is the case against that lie that's permeated in our society. So let's hop into why we think this lie survives or has survived as long as it is. Now, we could chalk it up to government, political, the man, if you will, putting it down on us. But I think it goes deeper than that. People nowadays like comfortable. And they like to say, like, well, if people can't change, I don't have to, or nobody has to. So it's not for the person who failed to change, not for the people around them who benefit from them staying the same. And by the way, those people, if you choose to change, you're going to get haters from your friends, from your friend group, because it shines a light on what they're not doing. See, their identity wants to protect itself. The brain treats who I've always been as a safety net, even when who you've always been is killing you. Think about addiction. Think about being morbidly obese. Think about smoking cigarettes like a chimney. Whatever it may be, you know it's killing you, but it's easier to stay the same. It's more comfortable to stay the same. This is binary thinking. Again, same failure mode as the Two Truths episode. Either you're the addict or you're not. Either you're built for fitness or you're not. There's no room for becoming, no room for transformation. So I want to point this out, that the lie isn't necessarily stupid. I don't want anyone to grasp that from here or make me think that they're feeling better, or I'm sorry, I don't want them to feel bad because of my words. What I want to is shed a light on this. It's self-protective. You're protecting yourself currently by not choosing to change. And when you name that, it removes its power. So when you name whatever it may be, that identity that you're holding on to. So now there's science behind this as well. What I've always noticed is that change is typically a good thing. What's hard is the transition. Think about someone that's addicted to tobacco, cigarettes, or chew tobacco. It's the transition. It's those social breaks they may get from work that they got to give up. It's, let's say someone has a food addiction or just loves food and that's why they're overweight no matter how much they work out. They got to change or transition from how they've lived, that easy drive-through mentality, to actually meal prepping to stay on track. But I want you to use these as ammunition. This isn't a lecture. Let's move on. Let's figure out what it takes to change. So I wrote some notes. I've acquired these over some of my experiences over time. And science backs me up on this. Not only does science back me up on this, it's biblical. So the 4 things that actually change someone. 1 is pain. You actually get sick and tired of being sick and tired of the current version of yourself. The second one is a vision. You actually have a vision for your future self that you want to attain. So the pain gets you going. The vision keeps you going. That new identity that you're stepping into. That new version of yourself, that unlived life that you're trying to get to before it's too late. Number 3, identity. This is where change really happens. You actually ask yourself the question, who do I need to become to make it through this hard transition, to actually see the change that I want to make in my own life? And number 4, repetition. Now we know this, but I want to land this point even home even harder. We are what we repeatedly do. Now, you probably grew up with the adage that it takes 21 days to build a habit. Science doesn't say that. What science says is it on average takes 66 days. It takes 66 days to actually, and that's a median average. So it could take 18 days for someone, and it could take 214 days for another. But I want you to have this crystal clear. You can change. The brain can rewire at any age. Adult neuroplasticity used to be considered hearsay. The old assumption was that your brain locks after childhood or at a certain age. That's been overturned. Adult brains reorganize in response to learning, stress, injury, repetition. Learning, stress, injury, repetition. Change isn't a metaphor, it's measurable tissue, right? And part of the reason that brain science has been backed on this is, we've talked about this probably not for a long time, but fMRIs came around, I think, in the 70s, And we were actually able to start to study the brain. So we were way ahead on science in the body well before we actually got to brain science. So this is real. So remember, it's a range of 18 days to 214 days, but the median is 66 days to build a habit. And what you're building with that is automaticity. Your identity is becoming new. You're actually building into something that this is who I am now. So if it's working out, we'll go back to that. If I'm working out on it, I go from not working it all out at all, or here and there, to I work out every day per week. Every single day, I do something to move my body. I do something to get in better shape because that's who I am now. You go from I'm a drinker of bourbon, wine, beer, whatever it may be, and I do use that to unwind at the end of the day. And that's my form of unwinding, and that's who I am, to going, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. That doesn't fit my future narrative or future self. So my new identity is when I come home, I read something. When I come home, I drink more water. I don't veg out on the couch and have alcohol. Whatever that new identity is, you are taking it on as you. And that will start over repetition to build into the person that you want to be. It's not behavior modification. I don't want you to get that out of that. Although there is something, behaviors that you're going to have to change, it's truly about transformation. Transformation is who you are becoming. Science has just caught up to what Scripture and Spartans already knew. You are not sentenced to what you inherited. You can transform. Your brain can transform any day, should you choose it. And that choice is yours. So I gave you a few examples earlier on in this podcast of what I've seen change. I'll actually talk about one of my mentors, Ed Milet, whose father was an alcoholic, and for a long time. And Ed actually talked about how he used to know how his dad's key went in the keyhole of their front door, what he was walking through that door, if his dad was drunk or sober. He knew by the sound of the key hitting the door. When Ed became an adult, his dad actually chose to live a life of sobriety. And he went on to mentor others into their own sobriety. Numerous, dozens. Ed still hears about it today. So he knows, based on what his dad did, that people can change. I know, based on my own friends giving up their addictions, or myself choosing to change throughout my life, that people can change. It's not luck. It's an accumulation of the identity that you choose and the repetition, that 66-day principle, repeated. Now, I want to talk about the generational trauma. I think this is the hardest one. The one people believe least is possible. So, despite what was handed to you, you choose to be different. Despite what was handed to me, I chose to be different. One of the things I've talked about numerous times, whether it was in the Kairos Code, the book, on this podcast, otherwise, I didn't hear I love you a lot from my dad. I didn't hear affirmations from my dad. I chose to break that cycle. And the reason he didn't is because he and I have had this conversation. His father didn't give him that. It was the way to raise a tough son, is what has been taught. We know there's multiple ways now to raise tough sons, to having loving relationships with your kids, to not just repeating the lines that we were told, to rub dirt on it, not cry, show that you're tough. So I want you to think about this. I chose to tell my kids, my daughters and my son, every single day that I love them and I'm proud of them, and nothing will ever change that. What do you need to change? What generational trauma do you need to break? And here's a harder question for you, and I may have asked it before, but if not, it bears repeating. If you don't break your traumas, if you don't break your quote-unquote generational curses, which of your kids are you going to put that on? I want you to point them out. Name their name. Does that hit hard? Because that's your choice. If you don't choose to change it right now and break that, you're passing it on to your kids. So for some of you, that should hurt. And you should do some self-reflection. And you should change. because otherwise it is going to pass to your kids. So I want to go back to the two truths thing. And truth one, change is hard, slow, uncomfortable, and most people won't sustain it. But there's a second truth. Change is available to every person willing to pay for it in repetition. Every person that's willing to die to their former self. Both of those truths that I said are true. We want instant gratification. We think we can work out once and have a great body. We think we can eat one clean meal and we're going to lose all our fat. That would be nice. We think we can take one drug like Ozempic and everything will be fine. Now, by the way, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing per se. Please seek a doctor when you're talking about those type of drugs. Make sure it's right for you, as those commercials say. But bottom line is, those two truths are true at once. It's not a contradiction, it's maturity. So the people who say people don't change are collapsing this into one truth because it's easier than living inside that tension. Just is. And again, that goes back to laziness, that goes back to comfortability. So sometimes the pain has to get great enough for us to actually change. Or you make a conscious choice today to live into a different vision for yourself, for your family, for those you lead. All right, let's scroll through. So what change actually requires? Let's wrap it up with this. It's a decision. You decide, you and only you decide that you're going to change. And then you defend that daily, just like AA does. If they slip up, they start over the next day. It's one day at a time. 75 hard. You mess up, you don't hit one of the tasks, you start over the next day. You also want to plan more specific, or more specifically, I should say. It's not a wish. You're actually going to do a plan. You planned on it, you're going to follow the plan. And you want to repeat yourself, repetition, past the point of your motivation. Next, find a community that expects the new you, not the old version of you. I want to come back to that in a second, but I want to repeat or say this last one. And the last thing is having a little bit of faith that the man or woman on the other side of this is worth becoming. Having faith that the man or woman on the other side of this is worth becoming. Now let's go back to that environment piece. You need a community when you're making a concerted change that supports you becoming the new you, not you staying the old you. That counts for spouse, that counts for friends, colleagues, whoever is in your network. You need that support because it's hard. We already talked about that. That's one of the truths. Change is hard. I believe it's transition that's harder than change, but either way, it's hard. So you need those people in your corner that got your back, that are going to help encourage you into the new version of you, not pull you down like crabs in a pot. Make that conscious choice to weed some people out of your life if they're not on board with you becoming the new you. Man, this has been some good stuff. I hope this is resonating well with all of you. But let's close this up with some more fire. People don't fail to change because change is impossible. They fail to change because they choose to believe the lie that they can't change. They fail because they believe that lie and they quit before day 66 or 200 and whatever it takes for you to personally change. You are not exempt from change. You're not sentenced to your past, okay? You don't have to stay the old version of you. You're choosing to stay the old version of you. And here's to build upon that. Despite what you've inherited, generational traumas, curses, no resources, no big network, you get to choose what you build. And I'm a personal living example of this last one. Come back greater than the setback. It's not a slogan. It's actually biology, psychology, and faith all pointed in the same direction. And when you do that, when you come back greater than any setback that you faced, you become the proof that someone else needs that change can happen. You become the example. One of the things that's been said often is that you're best equipped to help the previous version of yourself. So how do you think Ed Milet's dad was able to help so many alcoholics into sobriety? Because he was helping the previous version of himself. And you can do that too. It doesn't have to be as serious as alcoholism. But you know how many people I've inspired through transforming my body in my 40s? How many people have done 75 hard just because I did it, or I've spoken about it and I've been the example? Or how many leaders that I've created that wanted to be a better leader because of my example? And I don't say this to boast, but I've just seen it as examples in my real life. Your neuroplasticity changes every day should you choose it, and you can. So I wrote a couple other notes down for our closing, because these were really important as I've thought about this topic. Change isn't reserved for the select few. It's available for us all. But are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to die or kill off your old self to become that new version of you? So your future isn't determined by your past. It is determined by the person you choose to repeatedly become. It's by the person you choose to repeatedly become. People don't change when they learn something new. Hopefully you're learning something new every day, at least every time you tune into this podcast. But hopefully you're reading, whether it's the Bible, other books that interest you, whether it's relationships that you have around you that are teaching you something new every day. So it's not something new that makes us change, because we're learning all the time. People change when their identity can no longer tolerate living beneath who they know they're capable of becoming. That's what I've identified as real change, what helps people start to change. They change when their identity can no longer tolerate living beneath who they know they're capable of becoming. Write that down. Spartans, you know what to do. Share this episode far and wide. I want to remind you again, get on theKairosCode.com/250. Help us as part of this launch team. The Audible book comes out August 1st. We appreciate your support. Remember, the good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.
This is Sparta!